Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
So you had a situation online where it's African Americans versus Black immigrants. You have this, popular online movement, FBA, and I've done multiple videos about them. And that movement foments hatred, it foments division among Black people. And so the recent example that we have is this situation involving statements that President Trump made against the Somalian people in America. He basically said that they are garbage and he doesn't want them in America. He wants them to leave America. He went on to say that their country stinks. He went on and on to make these disparaging remarks, and he basically said to Representative Omar is garbage as well. And so there have been some videos that African Americans have done where they have pointed out like statements that Somalians have made when it comes to being Black, for instance.
First of all, I know a warrior when I see one. I know a warrior when I hear one, and this is not one. You can look in his eyes and see that he has no fight in him. And in honor of Feast of Dedication, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the video. The European Jews refer to this celebration as Hanukkah. It's really about some strong Black men, warriors. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's continue.
There are multiple videos on social media where Somalians say that they're not Black. They try to distinguish themselves from other African people by saying that they're not Black. And then also, I saw a video of this imam basically complaining about African Americans and making disparaging remarks about African Americans. This is an imam. You're supposed to believe in the brotherhood of humanity and stuff in Islam. But instead of promoting brotherhood, this man promoted prejudice and bigotry against African Americans by referring to, basically saying that African Americans don't know who their fathers are, that most of African Americans are products of one-night stands. Total nonsense.
Let's listen to this video he's referring to.
Most of the people that we meet, especially African Americans, they don't even know their fathers. They don't even know their fathers. It was all of them, most of them were the product of one night stand. One night stand. They will tell you, I don't know my father. Well, who named you? Whose name are you carrying? Well, my mother chose his name for me. I don't know. Is that what we want for our ummah? No. كلهم أو معظمهم أبناء الزنا. أبناء الزنا. Why? Because man, he has to give up the seed. And because the marriage will limit them, they will go from one to another to a third.
All right, that's enough of that nonsense. That was so extremely offensive because my parents were married for 51 years before my father passed away. So this minister, and I'm using air quotes, made a racist blanket statement about Black Americans. And what did Trump just do last week? He made a racist blanket statement about Somali-Americans. That's called karma. Let's continue with the Black American man.
garbage, total propaganda. And then you also had a video clip of these Somalians rallying behind Trump before these controversial remarks were made. They attended this pro-Trump rally where they're talking about they support Donald Trump. And then you had this other guy that did a recent interview on CNN responding to these statements that Donald Trump made. A Trump supporter, the Somalian Trump supporter. And so some people are using those video clips to basically say, well, we don't care what happens to Somalian immigrants. We don't give a damn about them since they don't care about us. And I think that this is what people like Donald Trump want to see. They want to see people of color fighting each other instead of fighting Donald Trump.
Well, some people, the reason why some people like Donald Trump, because he got a little bit of gangster in him. Listen, I don't give a damn about people who don't give a damn about me. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Every other group does it, and we need to get on board. We need to follow suit with that. It's so annoying. My goodness. But you know what I also find so disturbing? Is that many Black Americans seem to be more upset that the Somali Americans voted for Trump. Never mind the open derision that they have for us.
They love to see that. They love to see Black people at each other's throats. When the fact of the matter is, this white man doesn't make these same distinctions that we make. He doesn't see any difference between Somalians and African Americans. When the police stop you and harass you and brutalize you, they don't ask you what nation you come from, what your nationality is. They don't give a damn about that. They didn't give a damn about Amadou Diallo or Abner Lawima being immigrants. They don't care nothing about that. There are multiple examples of Black immigrants that are treated just like African Americans. So we need to stop this infighting. And it's a product of ignorance that's being promoted on both sides. Ignorance that's being promoted among immigrants to look down upon African Americans, and ignorance among African Americans to despise other Black people. Ignorance perpetuated by groups like FBA.
So he's really throwing that word ignorant around a lot. I wonder how much knowledge he has about the Arab slave trade. I have a picture of Tibu Tip that I'm going to share. Tibu Tip, he was part Arab and part Bantu. So he has that African Bantu ancestry as well as Arab ancestry. And if you look at him, he looks a lot like us. Okay? The problem is he didn't view himself as one of us. He viewed himself as an Arab more so. And that's why he played a key role in the Arab slave trade. When I first began studying world history, African history, Black American history, I realized that Black Americans like to focus on the transatlantic slave trade, and that's because it's more recent in history. And so we tend to forget about the Arab slave trade. I also want to share, and just bear with me, guys, if you're really interested, if you really want to get some revelation, some wisdom, some knowledge, I want to read the first several verses of Psalm 83. Let me read it. The Most High, do not remain silent. Do not turn a deaf ear. Do not stand aloof, Most High. See how your enemies growl, how your foes rear their heads. With cunning, they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more. With one mind, they plot together. They form an alliance against you, the tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites. Interesting. Let me pull up a picture of Edom. There are plenty of books out there. If you don't know who Edom is, you better learn. Isn't that interesting? So Psalm 83 is basically a hit list. It's a hit list against those nations that came against the Most High's chosen people. Now, the Most High's chosen people are those who are the products of the transatlantic slave trade, the Arab slave trade. It's basically a scattering of people. That's why it's called the African diaspora. Okay? And we have Edom. That's the first person on the hit list. And then the second person, the Ishmaelites. There is also a YouTube channel, Pastor Omar. It's his ministry's YouTube channel. It goes by the name School of the Hebrews. And under his playlist, you will find his series, Edom, the Roots of Rome. Please look it up. Excellent series. And then another thing I want to talk about, I mentioned earlier this celebration, the Feast of Dedication. And this story is all about warriors. And the reason why you will not find this story in the King James Version is because it's found in the Maccabees. And in this story, it talks about Mattathias, and he was the father of 5 sons. And these sons were warriors, especially Judas Maccabeus. He had the nickname the Hammer. And he didn't have the nickname Hammer because he was trying to hold hands with his enemies. That's why I said this man that's in this video that has on his super cape for people that can't stand him, people that despise him. Yeah, that's why I see a warrior. I know a warrior. I hear a warrior. I know that's not one. But anyway, let's get back to what he has to say.
Which is probably a MAGA Trump front organization. You know, it's pro MAGA. They defend MAGA while they have all these horrible things to say about Obama and Kamala Harris. And they're being exposed for the right wing movement they are. They are imitation white supremacists. And it's just sad to see people on both sides playing into this bitter conflict. Now, it's one thing to expose the fact that some of these immigrants have effed around and they found out. You know, some of them supported Donald Trump, and now they're finding out how foolish that was to do. And it's right for people to point that out. But it's one thing to point that out, and it's quite another thing to tell people that you don't care if they get deported, you don't care what happens to them. Because the fact of the matter is the same ICE agents that harass the immigrant community are the same ICE agents that came to Chicago and harassed Black people, Black American people. These ICE agents are racially profiling people, and Black people are caught up in that racial profiling that's going on.
You know, Somali Americans not only distanced themselves from Black Americans, they have isolated themselves on the continent from Bantu Africans. So it's not just a Black American contempt. So that lets me know if they were a part of the police force and pulled us over, they would see us just as white supremacists see us, sir.
Just as Donald Trump, hates these Somalian people, he also said that there are other countries that fit that same description. And we know about the statements that he made about African countries, calling them shithole countries, called Haiti shithole country. But yet and still we're fighting with each other. And if he looks upon our motherland of Africa as being a shithole, what do you think that he thinks about you as a Black man?
I don't believe that any Black American believes that Donald Trump is in love with us. We know that better than any other melanated people. Joe Biden has so much disdain for Black Americans that he created the 1994 crime bill.
So I just think that it's time for us to end the ignorance and end the infighting and unite against a common enemy. And the fact of the matter is, those video clips that we've seen of Somalians saying this and that, those don't necessarily reflect the views of most Somalian immigrants.
How do you know? That Muslim minister, do I need to play that again? He was talking to a couple hundred men. You don't think that they went back home and taught this to their children and wives? We also have Africans on the continent saying Somalians don't mess with them. So we're supposed to play ostrich and pretend that it's only a few Somali-Americans that feel this way? If you don't want to believe Psalm 83, at least believe the other Africans on the continent.
Just because we saw some people on stage with Donald Trump, that doesn't mean that most of the Somalian people rallied behind Donald Trump or supported Donald Trump. As we know, Representative Omar is a Democrat elected from a majority Somali population. So, yeah, I just had to say this, man. We should not allow ourselves to play into division against one another. The immigrants and African Americans and other marginalized people need to unite against a common enemy. And that common enemy is Donald Trump, MAGA, and white supremacy.
Sir, I'm going to go by what history has taught me. History has taught me who my enemies are. Not only that, the scriptures confirm who my enemies are. I'll let Brother Malcolm take us out.
You can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump.